My individual presentation is going to be over the short story Doe Season. The author of Doe Season is David Michael Kaplan. Some side information about the short story Doe Season is, once again, it was written by David Michael Kaplan. It was included in his debut collection Comfort in 1987. The cultural context of Doe Season is very important to consider because this gives us some background information of some of the aspects in the story that are very important. The cultural context is that deer have roamed this earth for as long as we can remember. For a long time, deer hunting has been thought of as a coming-of-age event, and in the present days, in some past generations, for not just men, but women too. In this story, Kaplan uses a couple literary terms that we need to focus on. I have listed 4 literary terms to consider. The first one is realism. Realism is the attitude or practice of accepting a situation as it is and being prepared to deal with it accordingly. The second literary term to focus on is magical realism. Magical realism is a literary or artistic genre in which realistic narrative and naturalistic technique are combined with surreal elements of dream or fantasy. The third literary term is coming of age. Coming of age is growing into adulthood. The last literary term that we'll think about throughout this short story is epiphany. Epiphany is the point in a work of literature where a character has a sudden insight or realization that changes his or her understanding. A quote that I found very appropriate for Doe Season is, "She's stuck between who she is, who she wants to be, and who she should be." The author of this quote is unknown. My thesis statement is that Andy fears her transition into womanhood, but she will soon come to realize that it is where she needs to be. Some of the supporting information that I have is Andy's fear, Andy's epiphany, and symbolism throughout the story. Now I will give a short summary of Doe Season for some people that are thinking about reading it. 2 men are taking their children on a hunting trip. The people include a 9-year-old girl nicknamed Andy, her father, a boy named Mac, and his father, Charlie. Charlie is not fond of the idea that Andy is coming because she is a girl and will be too young or too loud for the trip. These reasons also scare him because he thinks that she will scare away the animals. Andy's father, however, sticks up for her and says that when they go hunting on their own trips, she attracts the animals. Throughout this story, Andy struggles with her self-identity, and after some time of the trip, she finally realizes that this isn't what she wants to do at all. Andy has a hidden girly side to her, but she fears womanhood. At the end of the story, as they cut up the doe, she runs away. This is the part of the story where it finally really hits her that someday she is going to be a woman, just like her mother, and that is what she wants. At the end of the story, she doesn't want to be called Andy anymore because that is not her real name. She wants to be called Andrea. Andy fears womanhood. Andy loves spending time with her father and doing types of things with him, like hunting, instead of being inside with her mother. She fears what womanhood will be like because she thinks she is more into boy activities than girl activities. Andy's epiphany. Andy figures out throughout the story a couple times when she knows she will not be made for the man's world. She first figures out when she dislikes Mac. Mac is what a lot of boys are like in this world, and by not liking him, it shows that she definitely has a stronger girl side than boy side. Another time is when she has to share a tent with Mac. There are certain conversations that Mac brings up that make Andy very uncomfortable, and this goes to show again that she isn't cut out for the boys' world. I brought up before the last one, which is when they are cutting open the doe, and she runs away and realizes that she doesn't want this. Kaplan uses a couple of examples of symbolism throughout his writing in this story. The first one I'm going to talk about is the sea. When Andy first saw the sea, she was terrified of it because of the raging waves and everything that came with it. Kaplan uses the sea to symbolize the world around her and adulthood. Soon it will overwhelm her and take over before she knows it, and it will be nothing like she has seen or felt. The sea also reminds her of the time when the waves took off her mother's bathing suit top and she saw her breasts, and she had the thought that someday that will be what she is like too. The final piece of symbolism that we can see in this story is the title Doe Season. This is when hunters kill off the women deer. This is also the story because Andy is being targeted by the men around her to do things, and she is trying to prove to them that they are wrong, and she is ignoring her womanhood. Finally, and in conclusion, I think that this quote is appropriate for this story. Maybe the journey isn't so much about anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you are meant to be in the first place. I think that this journey of this hunting trip took Andy in a whirlwind, and it showed her what she isn't meant to be, and it brought her to the realization that womanhood is where she is supposed to be.